again, Lisa.
Hello, Andrew.
Hello.
Hello.
It's a sunny afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, we've been watching Are You Being Served? The Think Tank.
Of course.
What
else would you do?
The third episode of season 2.
Yes.
Right. We said about the extras in the background.
We did.
And
yes.
the opening shot are of them sort of arranging things.
Arranging things and
taking the covers off and stuff.
Yeah, counters and things. Yes.
Well, Mr. Rumbold's the first one in.
Yes.
And he encounters Mr. Mash.
Yes.
Cleaning a lady dummy and sponging her down.
Yes.
And he's not sure what to make of this.
No.
Yeah.
No.
You think it's not suitable.
Yes.
And
he thinks the female staff should clean the female dummies.
Yes.
But the problem is that crosses union barriers, so may cause a strike. It's like it's the play school clock all over again.
Yeah. So the suggestion is that they should be washed in shifts.
Yes.
Like they do in convents,
yes.
according to Captain Peacock.
Yes.
How does he know this?
He reads a lot.
He reads books.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what sort of books he reads, but Mr. Mash, I would like you to wash the female dummies wearing a petticoat.
Yeah.
And of course. Yes, and then there's some niggling about Captain Peacock's bowler hat.
Yes, because apparently floor staff are not allowed to wear bowler hats. They should wear Homburgs.
Yeah, it's departmental heads and above, can have.
And junior
bowlers.
Staff can wear trilbies or flat hats.
Yeah.
Because Mr. Humphries then comes in a Homburg.
But this has never been discussed.
No.
I mean, we're into the second year and this has never been discussed.
This has just only been revealed.
Yeah, so it's one of these sort of bits of continuity that surely should have applied last year. But
technically, yes. Yeah. But,
So yes, Mr. Humphries is wearing a Homburg though, and he's told that he shouldn't have that.
No, he should wear a trilby or a flat cap.
And Mr. Lucas is not wearing a hat at all.
No, he's told he's got to buy a hat.
Yeah, so there's a lot of business in
hats.
In hats. Yeah.
Now, given what they're talking about, ideally they should
buy them there. But they seem to go off and buy them in other places, don't they?
Which is ironic considering what the main focus of this episode is.
But I suppose it's quite funny. Clearly, the hats that they actually sell in Grace Brothers, they don't think much of.
No.
Even with a staff discount. Yes. So Mrs. Slocum comes in. Her hair's fairly subdued again.
Yeah,
isn't
it's sort of a green, sort of turquoisey blue-green colour.
But it's only sort of really. It's not bright at all, is it?
No, it's quite subdued.
Mr. Granger's in last because he had to give up his seat
for a woman
in the train. Yeah, because
Mrs. Slocum comes in complaining that she's exhausted because she's had to stand all the way on the bus because nobody gave her a seat.
What was Miss Brown's trick? To shove a basket up a jumper
and stagger a bit as though she's pregnant, I suppose.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to work with Mrs. Slocum.
Mr. Humphries finds the bowler and assumes it's lost property, so he goes to take it off to the lost property office, which turns out to be closed as the bloke has lost the key.
Yes.
Do you ever get that? People losing keys to things? No.
You get a lot of lost property, mostly sticks.
Yeah. But Mr. Rumbold is concerned that the trade figures for the last month are down.
Yes.
It always seems to be going down, doesn't it?
Yes, it never really goes back up again, does it? I'm surprised they're still open.
Mr. Granger works out why, though. It's because people aren't spending as much money.
Yes.
So that's helpful. What was it they say? Trousers are at a complete standstill.
Yes.
Captain Peacock suggests a think tank. And apparently gin used to be 12 and 6 a bottle.
Yes.
Is that Mr. Granger remembering
That's Mr. Granger,
that? Yeah, Mr. Granger spends a lot of this episode about 5 minutes behind
everybody else.
What everybody's talking about. So 12 and 6 a bottle of gin, well that's the same as what your Magpie annual cost.
It was, but then that depends when it was 12 and 6.
Yeah.
Okay.
They consider having an evening meeting, but everybody's got an excuse as to why they can't attend. Mr. Humphries is having his hair washed, isn't it?
Yes.
It's the girl from the poodle parlour.
Yeah, she does it for free.
He has to just sit up and beg.
Yes.
There's an image for you.
Yes.
Mrs. Slocum says, of course, if I'm not at home at the stroke of 6, my pussy goes mad.
So has she, when they finish work at 5:30, gets home by 6?
Yeah, well.
It becomes 7, because they do use that again, and it becomes 7 later on.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
So in the end, they have the meeting at 8 o'clock
The next morning.
Mm. Mr. Granger has got to take his pill,
Mm-hmm.
doesn't he? So he needs some coffee. Captain Peacock,
or something to drink.
Or something to drink.
Yes.
Captain Peacock's got himself a hat, finally, which turned out to be more expensive than a bowler.
Yes. There's only bailiffs and
private detectives wear bowlers, apparently.
Yeah.
So he's got his coffee, and everybody has a bit of it, don't they?
Yeah. Now I don't know why Mr. Granger would take your pill with a coffee, because it's harder, in my opinion. When I take pills, it's better to take it with a cold drink.
Yeah.
Because with a hot drink, I think it starts to melt a bit, which is why it gets stuck. Because it gets stuck.
It's a blood pressure pill, isn't it? Yeah.
He doesn't have it.
It gets stuck, so he has to have several swigs.
Yes.
And he does a little, not very impressive burp, doesn't he?
No,
Yeah.
it's a bit
And there's no
sad,
coffee
isn't it?
left. There's no coffee left.
No.
Now we go into this thing about what people's dreams have been.
Yes.
Mr. Humphreys had a dream about a half man, half beast galloping towards him on
a black horse.
on a horse, and he didn't know which way to turn. But it was all right because he noticed it was riding side saddle.
Yes.
Mr. Granger claims that he washes his teeth in the dark in the morning.
Brushes his teeth in the dark.
Yeah. Mr. Lucas is late. He's got a cap.
Yes.
He had a dream as well about how everyone was motionless, and Captain Peacock fell off his chair and broke into lots of pieces.
Yes.
He kept on trying to
put him back together
and get his head on, and then he'd fall over again.
His head had fallen off.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mr. Granger's asleep at this point. He's just sort of.
Yeah.
So maybe the dream has come true.
Yes.
Mr. Mash is now washing the dummy in a petticoat, which distracts everybody.
The dummy's in a petticoat, not Mr. Mash.
Yes.
Yes.
And Mrs. Slocum reacts when he sort of goes up.
Yes.
And it sort of reaches about halfway up. She just does a woo! As though she's imagining it. He gets told to go away and do it elsewhere or later.
Yeah.
Blows a raspberry at...
Oh, Mr. Rumbold.
Yeah, and he claims it was squeaky arms.
The arms squeaky. It needs some oil.
Yeah.
Yes.
Some of the ideas they come up with is maybe they should sort of give away plastic footballs or tankards or something like they were a garage. Autographs from stars.
Yes.
Then they have somebody autographing clubs in golf clubs in the sportswear department, or put an advert in the local
newspaper.
They need a sort of catchphrase. You get a square deal at Grace Brothers. Mr. Lucas says they're just not trendy generally, because he was wearing high heels, wasn't he?
Yes.
Yeah. And maybe they should get a pop star or something, because they set the fashion. And the moment they talk about pop stars, Mr. Granger immediately thinks of
Bing Crosby. Yeah.
Maybe a moving display would be better.
Yeah.
We should have our trousers moving about more. Maybe some electric knickers that are jumping up and down.
Yes.
Or maybe Mrs. Slocum should just jump up and down.
Yes. Maybe not.
Mr. Granger's still thinking about Bing Crosby.
Yes.
Maybe they should have a fashion show.
Yes.
And you get the word unisex.
Yes.
Which is men and women in the same clothes. Although Mr. Rumbold isn't sure he's using the right word. Perhaps he means bisexual at this point. And Mr. Humphrey just sort of rolls his eyes and says, no, I don't think you mean that at all. But yes, what would they come up with? Male and female modes on the move. So yeah, Mr. Lucas gets the reel-to-reel tape recorder and a microphone to do the commentary for it. Young Mr. Grace turns up, and he's going to see Last Tango in Paris.
Yes.
Having got the okay from his
heart specialist.
Yes. But he wouldn't mind seeing some girls in corsets.
Yes, he gets quite excited at the thought of girls in corsets.
Yeah, then you've got the phrase the man in the street and the woman in the street.
Yes.
And Mr. Grace just hears woman in the street and thinks tarts.
Yes. You mean prostitutes?
No, he says tarts.
He does tarts, yes.
No, they wouldn't be allowed to say prostitutes.
I suppose not, no.
So Mr. Lucas is doing the commentary, and then you get everybody playing a part in a costume.
Dressed up in different costumes.
So Mr. Humphreys is Bobby. So what's he wearing?
He's wearing a sort of three-piece suit, isn't he, and a hat, like a fedora kind of.
What was it, a Crombie?
A Crombie
It's a
coat.
big coat, cloaky thing.
That's what pick Bloody Crombie, but not as long as that.
But that's apparently from You Only Live Twice.
Yes,
Okay.
like James Bond wears in You Only Live Twice.
He's got a pop-up umbrella.
Yes.
And I like the way he puts his umbrella up and he goes sort of up when the umbrella goes up.
And he's very pink shirt.
He's got a great Gatsby hat and some streetwalkers.
Yes.
Which are sort of big chunky shoes.
Shoes with heels, yes. Yeah.
Then you've got Tanya and Tony, who are going off to bed.
Yes.
And that's Mr. Granger in his sort of pyjamas.
And dressing gown.
Yeah. The sort of cord on it gets knotted.
Yes, you can't get it undone.
And he's got these wonderful pink slippers in the wide shot.
Very pink slippers.
Miss Brahms has got this sort of, what is it, a sort of wee willy winky thing, isn't it?
Yeah, well, she's got a sort of nightcap on.
She's got a candle.
A candle. I'm not sure anybody's ever worn a nightcap. And like an 1890s night dress
with cherries
on it, which is not really 1890s because it would be longer than that, I think. But this is a theme that's going to go on in a minute. Yeah. Historical clothes.
But then Mrs. Slocum comes on as Naomi, inspired by Susan Hampshire in The Pallisers, apparently.
Yes.
Now, The Pallisers has not long been running.
No.
Because it started in, January
and
74.
it's a long series.
Yes, it is.
I don't know whether that's one continuous series or whether it's several series, but it goes on for something like 20-odd episodes.
I was just looking to see if there's much crossover in the cast between The Pallisers and Are You Being Served, and frankly, there's not much.
No.
So what was it you said, 1910s?
Yeah, the skirt that she's actually wearing, because she's wearing this sort of hobble skirt, which you can't walk in very easily because it's tight on your sort of thighs. And in fact, she can't walk downstairs. She ends up jumping. Yeah. And then when she goes back up, she just hauls it up.
She's got a parasol.
Got a parasol.
And this sort of feathery thing as well.
Yeah, so it's almost 20s-ish, but the skirt is most definitely not.
Yeah. Mr. Grace is getting impatient now because he wants to see the Mickey Mouse.
Yes.
Then Rodney in his sort of business get up. This is Captain Peacock.
Yes. He's got a Homburg.
Yeah, and he's got a red lining to his jacket
to get sympathy from the workers.
From the unions.
Yes.
But yeah, he presses the lift button, doesn't he, with his
umbrella?
Trolley?
Yes.
And you get probably the funniest bit in the whole episode when the lift doors open. There's Mr. Mash with the dummy again.
Yeah, he's still trying to clean the dummy.
And the dummy sort of falls apart.
Yeah, he jumps and he loses control of the dummy and it all starts to fall apart.
And to me it looked like it sort of fell apart more than he was expecting.
Yes.
Because he sort of has about...
Because a bit falls out, doesn't it?
He has about sort of 10 seconds of business with it, doesn't it? And I think, that probably that take turned out to be funnier than they expected.
Yes.
Because he does look surprised.
Yes.
Yeah, then at the end, the sort of bit of fanfare music at the end keeps on repeating.
Yes.
It's a slight camera bump again. And Mr. Grace decides that this has been a rotten idea.
Yes, and they should just have a sale.
They should just have a sale. And he says to Captain Peacock about his hat doesn't suit him.
Yes.
And he should get himself a bowler.
Yes.
And Mr. Rumble just has to agree with that, doesn't he? Yeah.
Yes, you can't really disagree.
And at the end they get told, "You've all done very well."
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Grace.
But this is the first time of what will become many that they dress up.
Yes.
And do something for Mr. Grace.
Yeah.
So they always do it for Mr. Grace because A, you can get the actor in.
Yeah.
And B, you don't need any extras. So... Because there's no extra people, there's no customers at all in this episode.
No, it's another.
It's a very self-contained
uncustomer
episode.
story, isn't it?
Yes.
Well, you can see that it's certainly true. Their sales figures are going down if they just don't get any customers at all. Mind you, I mean, some of this takes place before and after
the shop
sort of store opens, doesn't it? But yeah, I enjoyed that. And, the sort of running gag of Mr. Mash and the dummy is quite.
It's very good.
It just keeps cutting back to him trying to do it.
Yeah, and he's certainly very funny when the lift doors open and he fumbles.
Yeah. But we're already halfway through season 2.
Yes, it's a short season.
Yes. So there's only 2 more to go, isn't there? But so there you go.
But yes.
Scores out of 10?
I think that's an 8 out of 10.
Really?
Yes.
I'll give it a 7.
Because it's alright, we'll call it a 7.5
Alright, okay.
Because it's, as I say, starting to get the business now.
But
what will go on. Mr. Humphrey's dressing up in increasingly flamboyant and ridiculous costumes.
All good fun there. We'll be back in time with something else soon.
Yes.
See you then.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.